Welcome to a new episode of the Late Night Lake Show podcast. It is your host, Ricky. I am joined today by a longtime friend of the show, now helping running things over at SB Nation's NBA division, my boy, Harrison Faigen. Harrison, how you doing today, my man?
You know, I survived my first Lakers media day, not having to blog like 8 articles about it. Right. It was weird to just like watch the quotes and be like, oh, I mean, that's interesting, but I don't have to write about that. So yeah, it's kind of, this is kind of me like transitioning out. I'm just doing 2 podcasts about the day. And then by next year, I'll be doing nothing on it.
That's right. See, Harrison has put in a lot of work over the years over at Silver Screen and Roll. And, obviously you are following Late Night Lake Show. You've seen his face multiple times on the show. So it's cool. It's cool getting you back. And also I'm a little bit envious that, by requirement, you have to take a half step away from this Lakers season just because you're going to be busy helping run other things. While we here at Late Night Lake Show, which you can get your merchandise in lnlsshop.com, are just so blessed that we are dedicated to the coverage of the Los Angeles Lakers, and their Media Day 2022 just wrapped up. Rob Pelinka kept it pretty straightforward. He didn't do a whole lot of waxing poetically over rosters and straight up lying, as some fans would think was coming up. So we'll definitely get into Rob's comments. What, the elephant in the room is the elephant in the room. Mr. Brussels himself is still a Los Angeles Laker. If you've seen the highlights, you caught up with the clips. We saw how, just happy he looks to be there. So I got some questions for Harrison on just the temperature of just the organization and all. And then we'll get into some fun topics coming up here soon. So, but if you're not already, make sure you're following the Late Night Lake Show podcast wherever you get your Lakers content. If you're into the reading stuff, which I think more people should do instead of reacting to 40-second videos on Twitter, read our articles at latenightLakeshow.com. We have a team of dedicated writers that are going to keep it real about the state of the Lakers. So make sure you subscribe to us there. But with that being said, Harrison, let's get into it, man. This was kind of the most unique media day that came to recent memory, just from the overall lack of excitement. You tell me, man, after reading and watching and seeing all the interviews, your initial thoughts on how media day felt compared to the years past.
Understated, I would say. I think sort of one of the things that, the thing that Anthony and I always joke about on our podcast is like the only honesty on media day is like what's not said almost. And you have to sort of read between the lines because everybody sort of says the same cliches every year about their team, right? But it's like, in past years, you got LeBron excited, ready to go to war with his team, really excited about this group that we have together. You got Rob Pelinka saying like, oh, the only standard that we as Lakers fans that we as the Lakers hold ourselves to is our fans want championships and we want to go after that. You have, like in last year at least, Russell Westbrook talking about how excited he was about this fit and how, it was gonna, like, they were gonna get going and he was excited to play with guys this good and was ready to do whatever. And then this year it was like LeBron talking about how he's just like happy everybody get to training camp after their weekend out together. And, like Rob is like, Lakers fans really deserve a team that plays hard every night. And like, that's where the bar is now. It's like, does not actively quit, halfway through the season. That's where the bar is. It's like, right. Hey, these guys, we may not be good, but we're going to try. Okay, we understand that last year was a little insulting. We're going to try a lot harder this year. And, I, for one, hope he's right because last year was miserable to watch. And, I half joke, half serious, like drove me from Lakers coverage just because it was like so miserable to watch.
Right. And we were going back-to-back championships. You might have stuck around a little bit more, right?
Yeah, I mean, or it would have been more of a consideration, but it's like, right. Oh, wait, I don't have to blog about this team anymore. All right, I'm ready to go.
Right.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's sort of like we were talking about. Like, it was very understated. Nobody was, you mentioned Rob was not like waxing poetic about the team. I do feel like he had been made fun of so much for that he's sort of toned that down. But this, even for him, was like, more understated than normal. Like he was just kind of, very happy to let Ham take as many questions as he could, was very happy to like obfuscate by saying they like couldn't trade picks sort of because of the Stepien rule. And like, hey, it could be worse. I could have made a trade that made us actively worse instead of just not making a trade.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, like, yeah, but that is, the bar should probably be a little higher than that. But even if I understand what he was saying, but yeah, just like you said, weird media day. Russell Westbrook making, no secret that he is aware that no one's really that happy that he's back and that he's going to try and do his best. It's just like, it didn't seem like anyone was, except for Thomas Bryant, who's always in a great mood, and like AD, who generally is like pretty charismatic, joking around, whatever. Like, it didn't seem like anybody was like overly hyped to be there. And it's like, yeah, let's go win a championship.
Man, your observation about LeBron and his comments on the mini retreat, and we since LeBron kind of added veterans to the team, he didn't do it his first year, right, with when it was all the kids, but it feels like since then he's had his mini retreats, and the fact that he just said, well, we got back in one piece, and the season is coming up, is number one, reading through the lines of where his mindset is. Folks were joking on Saturday when LeBron was tweeted out about, hey, do I still have eligibility, going back to college, and folks were like, this man's at the mini camp with his teammates, trying to focus. He took one look at that and said, yeah, maybe I should go play college football. Obviously, we are in a situation where,
he saw Russ hit the back of the backboard on like a wing three and was just like, I don't even know how you did that. But I'm going to go Google like NCAA.
I'd rather go live in a dorm right now than this. Yeah, exactly. I think we'll see more of that type of comments. Everyone is now at a point where it feels like it is what it is. This is the situation. Nobody is happy about it, but let's do our best to be professionals and respect one another in the media. But at the same time, that just leaves the door open for all of the reading in between the lines. And that was the first one of the day where I was like, LeBron don't really seem too enthused about how the mini camp went and how it went and how it's going. So Mr. Pelinka, though, Mr. Rob, he was asked plenty of times, right, about the offseason and how the Lakers could improve their roster and why didn't they do it to a greater extent, and is he willing to trade the picks? Rob says, let me be abundantly clear. LeBron committed to our organization. We're going to commit to him, including those picks, and to see him to the finish line. He emphasized that they only get one shot to trade the picks. And honestly, just reminded me of Eminem and Lose Yourself. You only get one shot. Like, that's all I pictured was, Rob Pelinka and the little...
Rob had that on the AirPods on the way into media day today.
That's it, man. And he needed the extra couple of days. Because remember, they pushed it. They had a press conference scheduled, right? Pushed it back to media day. And these are the bars that he prepared. So him emphasizing, Harrison, that, they're going to do all they can to maximize LeBron's time here with the organization, but at the same time did not make a move. I don't know, man. We talk about the entire time about it's a no trade is better than a bad trade, but is what we're looking at and the vibe of the team and the lack of enthusiasm, is that truly better than rolling the dice in another package to try to shake up the roster?
Well, I mean, it depends on the package. I mean, his point is well taken that, they could have made a bad trade and that would have been bad. And then they would have been out of assets to use to make a good trade. So like, I understand it from that perspective. And the whole, like, I know he said, I think it was Summer League, right? He was on the broadcast and he was saying, we're not done yet. And I think around the same time, Jeannie was saying, we're not done yet. And Darvin might've even said it at one point. I'm surprised like Kurt Rambis didn't, send a telegram in saying like, we're not done yet. But they did trade for Patrick Beverley, so they technically they got, and they signed Dwayne Bacon today. So between those two moves, they were not done. He's right. They made some additional. We
got Matt Ryan over from the Colts too. He signed over. Like, I'm looking at these names. Yeah,
I was like, wait, that's not the same Matt Ryan, right? Like, this isn't a Tony Romo getting like a 10-day contract with the Mavericks, right? Like, to sit on, or 1-day contract to sit on the Mavs bench. No, and then I sort of, I respected at the very least that he didn't like outright lie to us. But the part that you mentioned about the picks and him saying that he wanted to make that clear, he really did want to make that clear because he was not asked about LeBron and committing to his future and, using those picks or anything. That was like a redirect of a question about Russ, where he was asked about keeping him on the roster and would he stay the whole year. And he's just like, he answers that question and he's like, oh, and let me be clear, by the way, I know there's been a lot of talk about, will I trade the picks? Will I not trade the picks? Da, 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 da.
Right.
It's like, he wasn't even waiting for a question. I guess that's what, he canceled the interview the week before, which I should note, like, Rob and Magic, or, Rob and Frank and, whoever the current kind of like executive and coaches, and like they have typically done media before media day. So this was sort of a departure in the fact of him doing it on that day. It's normally, I guess, like they can kind of talk as long as they want. They aren't up against scheduling constraints, whatever. He did it on media day this year. And I think part of that was probably like, maybe he didn't want to talk as long. He wanted to do it with Darvin Ham so that not all the questions are to him, can kind of use him as a meat shield a little bit. And, they're kind of in and out of there, whatever. But he definitely had his talking points. And maybe that's what they canceled last week's press conference for was, Rob had to go to PR school. It's like, all right, it's like high school debate class, or like college speech class. You're kind of like, okay, what do I think my opponent's going to say? Let me map out what my response is. And, he had that one ready on the cue card, even though nobody asked him about it.
Right. Speaking of which, I did not have on my bingo sheet meat shield, but welcome. I appreciate the reference for Ham and Palinka. So
he's Ham. He's literally a type of meat shield. Yeah, he's
we signed Bacon. We got Ham as a meat shield. Hopefully
the
Rob
least vegan Lakers roster in years.
Exactly.
That's why Kyrie didn't come. He just.
See, Harrison, you hop on the show and you still got it, man. This don't fall off at all. Oh, okay. So I mean, you said it. I guess I appreciate the non-lying, non-flat out lying. But it doesn't change the fact that we're looking at a roster with six guards. You look at the forwards, right, and it's literally like LeBron, JTA. Then they just start throwing names over there that technically work as another wing, right? Hell, Rob Pelinka confirmed today that the Lakers look at Patrick, 6'1" Beverly, capable.
Is he only 6'1"? I didn't realize he was listed that low.
Let me confirm this. Let me confirm this right now. Pat Bev height. 6'1". Yeah. So Pat Bev,
okay.
I was telling my wife today, and because my wife cares about basketball zero, I'd still love to just talk at her about the situation. I said, wife, let me try to explain the situation for you.
You don't call her by her name, just wife.
Just wife, right?
Yeah.
There's somebody on the Lakers organization that's from Chicago, which I appreciate. He's 2 inches shorter than me, and the Lakers want him to guard people that's LeBron's height. And I made the reference to our dining room the dining room light, and I touched it. I said, this is about LeBron's height. Can you imagine somebody 2 inches shorter than me guarding someone LeBron's height? She says, no, that actually sounds really stupid. I said, Exactly. Harrison, what am I supposed to do with information like this where it almost feels like that the Lakers they're not in the lying business today. They might just kind of be in the delusional business. Like, do we really believe that this roster is set up for success with six guards and thinking that Patrick Beverly is going to consistently be able to guard wings when asked upon during the season?
No, I mean, I think this is a roster that, I'm not the first person to point this out, so this is not revolutionary analysis, but this is a roster that very much appears like it was constructed for like a post Russell Westbrook trade environment, and then they just didn't trade him. It's sort of like, it's like if you were doing a group project in college, but one person didn't show up and do their part, and the whole thing just doesn't. There's just like, you're giving a presentation, and it's just like Act 3. We just don't have anything there. Just ignore. We're just going from 2 to 4. And that's sort of what the Lakers did with this roster. So it's just going from 2s to 4s and 5s, and there's just no 3s in there anywhere.
Literally.
And I think Pat Bev Yes, he's tenacious. He has this reputation. Like, he's certainly, I have zero doubt in my mind that Patrick Beverley is not afraid to guard threes by any means. Like, if that is something that the Lakers ask of him, he is going to try his best. He might even have some success sometimes. But, over the course of an 82 game season, it's just hard for me to believe that that's a recipe for success where you're going to win more matchups than you lose. And again, that's no slight at Pat Bev. He's just, like you said, he's 6'1". And so, we all remember the playoff game early on. It was like Clippers Warriors, and I think it was 2017, I want to say 2019, somewhere around there, where he really was going at Kevin Durant, really gave him some fits early on in that game, because he's like, I'm not used to arms being this low. Like, when I'm guard, like he's getting stripped on his rip through move, like all this stuff. But, eventually taller players and teams start to figure that stuff out. And not to mention, we just saw last year how much of a problem it is when a team has no rebounders, and like no guys that can rebound. And like, not again, Patrick Beverley, I'm sure will try his damnedest to rebound and will try and box out and do all of these things. But if guys are just going over his back, because he's playing the three and the guy he's guarding is 6 inches taller than him, then, there's only so much you can do there. And it's weird where, like, I think this team, they're like one competent wing body away from me seeing the vision and sort of being like, okay, I kind of like a lot of these guards in a vacuum. It's just the roster is imbalanced. Like, overall, I sort of like what they did, but I'm not sure the overall, like, every single one of these signings, if we would have told you last season, it's like, oh, like so-and-so is coming to the team. It's like, oh, I kind of like that. Like, the Lakers were missing someone like that this year.
Right.
They got some ball pressure guards. They got some like bigger forward. They got Juan Toscano Anderson at the very least, bigger forward, this kind of stuff. They just need like probably one more of those guys for this to all kind of make sense. And there's no real way for them to add that right now.
It's an incomplete project. That's the issue. The only person that's got a complete project that showed up to media day was LeBron James. That is the only man. He is literally going to break the most decorated record in NBA history this year. He's going to break the scoring title. And I just think that, but beyond him, I guess Anthony Davis doesn't have much to prove, but, we'll get into some of his comments about his expectations for himself. But at the end of the day, man, Rob is not in a position where he can show up and say, this is how I envision the offseason turning out. He didn't say that because he can't. And since he decided not to lie today, the closest he got to it was saying that he's really excited about this roster. And I guess he could be, man, because they have players that fit Darvin Ham's identity of being, scrappy, hustle guys, being able to guard multiple positions if asked upon, maybe overlooked or thrown to the side so they have a chip on their shoulder. I get all that. But if we went and said on exit interviews 2022 of this year, I guess, Lakers last game of the year, and they said, hey, after that Russ interview, is he going to be on the team next year? You poll the audience, I'm going to say 75 to 80% of Lakers fans are like, there's no way in hell.
I think it would have been higher. But I do have to say, like, to Rob's credit, like, about the not lying to us, that, like, hey, that's a step in the right direction. 3 years ago, he would have been telling us about how, like, back in the day, they talk about the story of David versus Goliath and how, the smaller opponent can overcome, all of the, like, the bigger opponents by just, smarts and, wiles and whatever. And he didn't even do that today. I was fully expecting like a full David and Goliath, or him to talk about, like how Ant-Man defeats his opponents. I don't know. Like, I was ready for like some kind of wild storytelling analogy, or maybe, Rob loves to talk about, like, there was a couple years ago, we talked about, like, how all of the Lakers young players were like lion cubs and they were going to learn how to roar from, a big lion and LeBron. And it's just like, there was none of that today. He was not kind of sugarcoating this. He's like, hey, we're going to do our best. We're going to play hard. And and hopefully you guys like that, because I am feeling, imperiled and on the hot seat.
Well, you know what we call that? Him not lying? Growth. And with that, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we got to get into the elephant in the room. We got to talk about Mr. Russell's Brussels and his media day year 2 debut.
The Late Night Lake Show podcast is sponsored by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best legal way to play daily fantasy player props in states like California, New York, Texas, and more. You pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry. The best part is you can mix players from different sports. You can take the over on LeBron combined with the under on Mahomes in the same entry. Prize Picks is the easiest way to play daily fantasy because it's just you versus the projected numbers. Just use our promo code LNLS and any deposit you make can receive 100% instant deposit match up to $100. So go support the brand and go win you some money. It's the best of both worlds. Again, use our promo code LNLS.
H, I don't know if you know, man, but I'm anti one Marvel character, and I am very much like I have no purpose for the other one. You mentioned the one that I have no purpose for. It's Ant-Man. I'm a big Paul Rudd fan. There's just really something, and it's a me thing. I know it's a me thing. It's something about superheroes getting smaller to get mightier. I don't, it don't work for my blood. So, where does Ant-Man rank on your favorite Marvel characters, brother?
I mean, certainly not very high. His first movie I thought was really good and honestly better than I expected. The second one, I think, tried a little too hard to be sort of like I'm gonna be the first one, and it honestly it reminded me a little bit of Thor: Love and Thunder, where it's like, hey, we like Ragnarok, just do that again. And that's sort of what the second Ant-Man movie felt like. I enjoyed the first one a lot more than I thought. It was good for a heist movie. I don't think that he's a superhero that should be getting put up on the same level as powers wise as the other Avengers, but in a self-contained story and in a limited role, comedic relief type of stuff, I enjoy him. And like you said, who doesn't love Paul Rudd? Yeah,
great dude. Paul Rudd. Who's the Paul Rudd of the Lakers this year? It's got a
Thomas Bryant, I think.
Is there anyone
who doesn't like Thomas Bryant? I don't know, maybe I'm biased, but yeah.
No, I'm a big TV fan, man. Even back from his days from when he got drafted out of Indiana, I was really hyped about that. Sad to see him go, but that's a story for another day. Harrison Faigen, Late Night Lake Show. We have to talk about Mr. Russell Westbrook. And I want to start this segment off, just being upfront. I thought that there was no chance in hell, no way in hell. There's no reason why Russ should be back on the roster this year. I'm sure a lot of people in Russ's camp thought that he wasn't going to be back, but here we are. Russell Westbrook is a Los Angeles Laker. He was not traded during the offseason. He was not attached to 2 first-round picks to go to Indiana or Utah or Charlotte or San Antonio. It sounds like the Lakers obviously tried to do that and honestly are still trying to do that based on how everybody's talking about the situation. So, Harrison, I kind of just want to get your upfront thoughts just about Russ's Q&A session and just where you see kind of this relationship with him and the team playing for him, right? He's saying all the right things, but just kind of read between the lines a little bit for me on how you think this thing is playing out.
Yeah, I mean, and again, to bring it back just really quickly to the Pelinka thing, he didn't claim that he did not try to move Russ. I was fully expecting a blitz from everyone about that was all fake news. We all love playing together and nobody tried to move Russ. Why would we try to move the 2017 MVP? I think it was 2017, right? That he won MVP. 2018, somewhere around there. We didn't try to move this former MVP and multi-time All-Star. Any team would be lucky to have Russ. They didn't deny that stuff. And I think Russ, like you said, he said all the right things. To his credit, he was an absolute professional, and it was honestly the complete opposite of his exit interview, where he just kind of was like, I'm gonna throw everyone else under the bus and just kind of let it fly and give you my real unfiltered thoughts. Here, I think there was a recognition, hey, maybe I didn't think I was going to be here. Maybe Ricky didn't think I was going to be here. Maybe no Lakers fans or media or anyone in the organization thought I was going to be here, or any of my friends or family or whatever, but I am. And, we got a whole season to get through. So let's like not necessarily go out of my way to call Anthony Davis and LeBron liars on like the first day of training camp. And like, let's just, try and do kumbaya. But then also like, he was not, sort of sugarcoating things, in that, he was asked, I think directly, do you feel wanted by the Lakers? And he's like, well, that doesn't really matter, which is kind of like, I think, the shorter answer of that is clearly no. Because if you're arguing it doesn't really matter, if you feel wanted, you just say, yeah, but he's,
do you feel wanted in your relationship with your wife, Harrison?
Well, it doesn't really matter if I'm wanted.
Brother. That's no good. The side's over, no good. You see what I'm saying, right?
That's not the important thing. Yeah, you're obfuscating a little bit, when you do that. But then he also went to like did the whole like going to the media, and it's like, I'm sure all of you know what it's like when you go to work and you don't really feel wanted by people there. And it's like they're I imagine them looking up at the podium like, yeah, Russ, we definitely know how that feels. Like most of the time that we talk to you. But
he's just like us. He hates his job. He hates
maybe
his
that's
employer.
it. He was trying to ingratiate himself to them, but he's like, yeah, like, sort of like how I like dismiss you guys every time you ask me something. That's how LeBron and AD were to me last year. It was super not chill.
Well, I guess we give him credit for, getting up there. And he was given a couple of questions that, were clearly there to poke the bear, and he didn't bite. He said that he was going to continue to be him and play the way he's always been playing, as far as being a team player and stuff like that. A lot of Lakers fans would argue the way that he was playing last year and his style that he did not adjust wasn't to the benefit of the team. So, that people are looking for reasons to, continue to nail Russ to the cross, right? And say like, oh, this isn't going to work. He's done. Get him off my team, this, and that. But there's something to at least, showing up, being a professional, and giving it a chance. Russ sounds like he's going to give Darvin Ham a chance to lead this team from a coaching standpoint. They talked and said that, they've been in communication throughout the summer. Ham's talked about Russ has done all the things that I asked him to this year. I don't think there's been much issues as far as Russ not messing with his coach like that. I don't think, Russ has sat out or done things that have like, negatively affected how he's perceived as far as a player on a team. He's been benched. He pouted. He left the court before everybody else, but never has he just straight up said, F my head coach and things like that. So I think there's the opportunity for Russ to at least give his best effort next year. I just think that, everybody looking at the situation is like, that's great, but that won't be enough to actually propel this team into a competitive role. Do you think that an all-in Russell Westbrook could elevate this Lakers roster to being in a conversation of like, all right, this is a top 6 team in the West? See, I can't even say top 4 with all confidence, man. It's like, where do you see?
Are they above play-in range?
Right. Are they above play-in range, man? How do you feel a bought-in Russell Westbrook can help elevate this Lakers roster?
Well, I mean, it's certainly better than a bought out Russell Westbrook. It's like, again, these are low bars that we are trying to clear here, but they were cleared by this media day. And, just Russ trying to do the right things is a step in the right direction. Now, I'm still dubious that, because last year all it was talked about was doing whatever was needed of me and, all this stuff going into training camp. And that's, we all watched last year. That's not what happened. And but again, maybe under a new head coach, this is when he decides to take more corner threes and to cut off the ball and to play attentive defense on and off ball. And, for the first time, like 14 years into his career, he decides to do all of these things. But until we see it, I kind of don't buy it. It would be, it would obviously be helpful. It would be great. It would make it so that the Lakers wouldn't have to be as desperate to trade him because that is a far more helpful version of Russ than the one that they got last year. I'm just kind of not at the point where I believe it's coming, even if like he seemed sincere enough when he was talking at media day today about, at least like he at the very least did not want to make the situation worse, but I'm going to need to see it over the course of a handful of games before I start to really buy in that, hey, the Russ that's saying all the right things and that's developing a relationship with Darvin Ham is actually sort of the Russ that's going to show up and play in games.
Let's do a quick activity. Let's do buy or sell. Do you buy or sell that Darvin Ham could potentially start this year with Russell Westbrook coming off the bench?
I'm close, but I would say sell just because for the same reason that Frank would not bench him at all last year was because worrying about losing him. Like, I just don't know if you can start the year like that. I think you have to let him lose that job with his play. I don't think that you can just like start a veterans minimum guy over him right off the bat, as prideful as he is, and have that like motivate him to play better. I just am not sure that I buy that. But, like if he's not good, like if he's actively bad during training camp, like maybe it happens, but I'm not there yet. I don't know where you're at, but I would assume that he will at least start and be given the opportunity to lose the job.
I would be more confident in selling if actually no, I'm going to sell it because I think the Lakers are doing this thing where they're putting a bunch of people at Russ's position, not to necessarily like raise the bar of that position, but to motivate Russell Westbrook for raising his own bar. That's kind of how I'm looking at this when you decide to bring in 6 guards. It's like, Russ, you are now in a pool of other like-aged or younger guards and that are a little bit taller than you, but don't nearly have the same, accolades that you did. What are you going to do with this new opportunity? Are you going to keep your starting job or are you going to lose it to Austin Reeves or Patrick Beverly?
I think we may have stumbled on something here. They brought in Dennis to push him like play wise. They brought in Patrick Beverly because Russ hates him. Mentally. And they're just like they're trying to create a concoction where Russ is either through competitive spirit or just like not liking someone is motivated to like play the best season of his career. Like, just get him to channel the dark side. This is brilliant.
If he's playing away games every time he's in practice, he's got to be locked in, man. If he just has a fire every time he takes to the court and be like, damn, I got to see you again. It could be beneficial, but at the same time, it's just kind of laughable that they need that many bodies to cover 2 positions when you have one guy that is commanding, a lot of the salary cap that should be locked into that position. So, it's kind of double-edged where fine, if Russ was making half or a third of his salary, fine. It should be a competition, make the best man win. This is not good. I hear it a lot in football terms when folks talk about quarterback battles. And if you have 2 quarterbacks battling out for the starter job, you don't have any quarterback. Because it shouldn't be a battle for the starting quarterback position in the NFL.
Someone has not clearly proven themselves better.
Exactly. And that's where the Los Angeles Lakers are with Russell Westbrook versus somebody else starting over him. So, if Ham is the kingpin that he is kind of presenting these days, where he is not afraid or hesitant to doing what is in the best interest of what he thinks is for the team, I could also see that Russell Westbrook has a very short leash over the course of the year. But I think day one, that starting lineup is going to involve him on the floor. So, that'll be fun. That'll be a nice little fun storyline to follow as the Lakers continually try to trade Russell Westbrook behind the scenes and Russ fighting for a starting job in front of the scenes. That's good. That's good energy. That's good chemistry for the Los Angeles Lakers.
Dennis is delusional enough to actually think that he's going to take this job. Like I have zero doubt in my mind that Dennis is going to, I think Rob said he had visa issues like coming over from Germany. And so like it may be a week before he gets there, but I have no doubt in my mind that Dennis is going to come out into training camp whenever he shows up, like his hair is on fire and like trying to steal this starting job from Russ. And, maybe that does end up bringing something good out of him, or maybe it just pisses him off. We'll see.
Shifting gears a little bit, Russ said that he's talked to LeBron, he's talked to AD over the summer, called it very beneficial that the three of them kind of worked out some of the issues that they had over the course of the season. Russ, of course, says that he's always does that. So, I guess take that for what it's worth. But, I kind of wanted to take the spotlight away from Russ a little bit. I think the story and what the situation is with him has been well documented since he arrived on the team and hasn't been performing like folks thought he would. To me, really, the Los Angeles Lakers and just the overall happiness level of the fan base is going to really rely on the health and performance of Anthony Marshawn Davis Jr. And that's the next segment I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on, Harrison. It's just AD says that he's in great shape. Pelinka talks about, locked in and is looking to him to take on more of a leadership role this year. AD is expecting to play all 82 games if possible and be an elite and dominant basketball player. I would love all of those things to be true, every single last one of them. But I think we are in this position today, maybe not as much because of the Russell Westbrook trade and maybe a little bit more of the health of Anthony Davis. If AD had been healthy and elite these past 2 seasons, Russ might not have even been traded for, Harrison. And so, with somebody with that type of expectations and that type of potential that we have seen in the Lakers uniform him reach, I can't sit here and talk about Russ for podcasts and weeks and reactions and anger without putting some of this energy towards AD and saying, hey, bro, the Lakers are only going to go as far as you take them. And if you're not on the court, it's over. If you're not hooping to the level of your expectations, it's over. Can you kind of just, give me your thoughts on Anthony Davis's upcoming season and kind of his expectation for the franchise? Because really, we're at an inflection point. This is what, year 4 we're going into of the AD world.
Yes.
1 championship, 2 injury-riddled seasons. Talk to me a little bit about, Anthony Davis's media day and kind of your thoughts on how the Lakers can reach new heights with an engaged and healthy him.
Yeah, I mean, the leadership thing, you and I kind of chatted about this a little bit offline, but it's like, I feel like that's been a storyline for every single year that AD has been here. It was talked about him coming in. He was going to kind of share leadership responsibilities with LeBron. They were kind of both stars. Yeah. Heading into the next season, it was Jared Dudley talking about, okay, it's AD's time to lead and all this stuff. I feel like there were headlines and talk about that last year too. So like, that part of it, I don't know. I mean, we'll see if this is kind of the year where he really takes on a vocal leadership role. I just feel like that's really hard to do with LeBron in the locker room, almost no matter like who you are as a co-star, just because he's such a commanding, experienced presence as a leader. And it's hard for me to believe that there's ever going to be a team LeBron is on that does not sort of, get in behind him. You know what I mean? Where there's like another leader on that team and LeBron's just like a vet. That I don't really think that that's realistic. And I don't think that this is going to be the year for that. But in terms of like leadership by production on the court, this really is a year where I do think the AD has something to prove. He has had the 2, and you can say like he certainly seems to think that the last couple of years were flukes and it was like bad luck and it was bad injuries, but no one's going to care if it happens again this year, And so that's a lot of pressure to put on him of like, hey, like, better not step on anyone's foot. Like to some degree, there's nothing he can do about that. But I think what Lakers fans, I would imagine, would want to see, and what the Lakers, frankly, need from Anthony Davis is for him to be a little bit more internally driven, to put that foot on the gas, a little bit more himself, not, put himself in the positions where he is playing his hardest more often than I think he has the last couple of years, when he very clearly was, I think, the 2 years ago, it was totally understandable reasons, shortest offseason ever. He did not come into camp, with the amount of preparation that he needed. And I think you can kind of chalk that one up to that was just unfortunate circumstances. Not everyone's LeBron and can kind of come out, a month later and continue to play incredibly high level basketball, whatever. Last year, hey, like fluke injuries, all that stuff, like nobody wants to hear it a third year in a row. And especially not if you have kind of looked like less than 100% yourself, even while you were on the court. Like it's one thing if, let's say 20 games in, he's averaging like 25, 12, and, like 2 blocks or something like that. And he steps on someone's ankle and he misses a week or something like that. And like, nobody's going to be calling him Day to Davis if it looked like he was like defensive player of the year candidate, was really looking like a monster, just kind of happened to step on someone's foot. And that's bad luck, but hey, he'll be back. But when people don't want to hear it is when it doesn't look like you're kind of going all out and you're not putting up the production that they're hoping for from you. And then you have the freak injury. And so it's like the unavailability combined with you're kind of not living up to your potential already, so I'm already a little frustrated with you type of thing. And so I think that is sort of where, in my mind, AD is at. I think I'm not sure that there's any Lakers fans who like don't want him to prove them wrong or anything like this when they question his availability, whatever, but he's got to want to do it and he's got to go out there and do it. And I think to some degree, he's being set up for failure in some ways by the roster around him not necessarily having a ton of shooting. And how is he going to be able to take advantage of his best skill set? But, he's got to take advantage as a role man. He's got to be able to, less settling for threes, less settling for jumpers, all this stuff. Like people want to see him getting to the basket, want to see him being a defensive monster. And, if he can manage that stuff, then that's what's within his control. And I don't think anyone reasonable can really criticize him too hard.
That's all, AD. We are here for you. We love you, Anthony Davis. And if there's one thing that is going to save the soul of the fan base, it is going to be a healthy and engaged you. We know what LeBron's going to be. If LeBron decides that he's going to hang it up 1 year from now, 2 years from now, whenever, his story's written, man. Anthony Davis, I don't care.
Yeah, there's nothing that could happen this year outside of like on the court. There's nothing that could happen this year that would change LeBron's legacy, like even really all that much. Like maybe if he won another title a little bit, but even then, like that's not overall changing the story of LeBron's career
at all. The issue with AD is he is such because he also has like a 99% chance of, it's something ridiculous. I think he has like the highest percent chance outside of LeBron of being a Hall of Famer, right? Getting inducted to the Hall of Fame. It's better than Steph Curry's right now. And I think that's a little wild to read, but AD is looked and sought at with that type of pedestal that it is almost going to be impossible for his story not to coincide with the story about his injuries if he does not turn the page this year. It's this. Everyone, we've been saying it's this year for multiple years, but like you just said, Harrison, you can't go 3 years in a row without being him. You are no longer him anymore. And now it's like, damn, your peak. When did we see it? When was Anthony Davis's prime era? And then you'll look and then you'll have to see a scatter plot because it's 1 year here, 2 years here. And that's the issue. And that's what's so frustrating about that type of talent.
And he's 29. Like so often, like he's talked about like he's 34, and I get it. Like he's been hurt and stuff like that, but he's 29. This is not a guy who should be on the tail on like the wrong end of his prime. There haven't been any catastrophic injuries here where it's like, oh yeah, like he's never going to be the same again. Like everything that has happened to him, unless there's things that we don't know about, like should be healable things where he can kind of get back out there, get his body right. He's now had another long off season to kind of train and, get in the lab and get himself right. It does seem like he's a little slimmer this year than I think last year. He probably came in a little too heavy in retrospect. It seemed like that was sort of his takeaway by how much he dropped the weight in the middle of the season. And so we'll see. I mean, this is, as much as he's had to prove in, I would imagine, quite some time in the NBA, I guess really since his first year in LA, when I think a lot of people were upset with him. And there was this narrative that, he, wasn't that guy and he needed to be carried by LeBron, whatever. Winning a ring with LeBron doesn't dispel any of those critiques
but he was a monster,
judge him for that. But he was he would have been through the first 3 games of the finals. I don't have a finals MVP vote, but he would have been my vote. And then he got hurt and he gutted it out and finished out that series and was still by far the second best player on the floor, third if you want to put him behind Jimmy. But, through 3 games, he was insane in those finals and, was just on a ridiculous run throughout that postseason as a whole. And I want to see that guy again. He's a lot of fun to watch, and then, even coming in the next season, when there were times in the preseason where he looked like a 7 foot tall, bulkier KD a little bit with the way that he had been working on his shot, whatever, that seems to have mostly gone away. But, I want to see that mobile Anthony Davis again. Yeah.
Not the love for that outside shot.
He definitely, fell in love with that a little bit, I would say.
And I think you were about to speak on Harrison, but what is the one thing that you will be looking for out of Anthony Davis that you'd be like, okay, he might be Hemi Neutron again. He might be,
he's no longer the 19th best player in the NBA.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Obviously the shot would go a long way there, but I'm not really counting on that. That's a bonus if he comes into the year and he starts hitting his threes, and that's great. That's found money sort of. But I really want to see him getting to the basket again, finishing over guys, blocking shots without hesitation and without worry about coming down on someone. I want to see that guy that's kind of flying all over the floor and, just has his arms in, you remember that first year he was in LA when it was him and, Dwight and almost said JaVale. And JaVale McGee out there. And it's just there were arms everywhere. And, Damian Jones and Thomas Bryant are not the same types of players as Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee were that year. But maybe, AD playing the 4, being able to be freed up a little bit to get some of those weak side blocks to really pressure guys, to take wings during fourth quarters at times, the Lakers would have him do on Kawhi or on Paul George or whatever down the stretch of games. I want to see that guy again because he's a lot of fun to watch and just one of the most versatile NBA players I've ever seen in terms of defensive versatility.
I want, and I think this is where you were going with it too. I want more oops again. I want more dunks. Do you remember how many alley-oops that Anthony Davis was catching from folks? Rajon Rondo would just
Rondo,
nasty
the
lobs,
savant
man.
of AD lob passing. No one's ever been better. Not even LeBron is better at finding AD on lobs than Rondo was.
I just, to me, the most satisfying visual dunk to see is a reverse dunk where you catch it, you're not looking, and you just throw. The amount of times that Rondo would throw an oop to Anthony Davis, and it'd just be no look dunk. It was this is art. Yeah. This is what being a giant is supposed to look like. God damn it.
I mean, he was so mobile that year that Danny Green, the worst alley-oop passer I have maybe ever seen, in my entire life, outside of NBA basketball. I'm talking just horrendous alley-oop passer, but would give AD these amazing highlights because he had to triple spin back around himself, reach his arm all the way back to catch it and then dunk it like it's a Nerf hoop. I want to see that guy again. And I hope that he's kind of feeling that mobile and he has that pop again.
Yep. Lighter. About the longest offseason he's had to rest his body now, probably since he's been a Laker, easily since he's been a Laker. Anthony Davis, again, a lot of talk about a lot of names on the Lakers this year. Obviously there are some additions, Patrick Beverley, Juan Toscano Anderson, Lonnie Walker Jr., a lot of guys that we can have some positive expectations for. But at the end of the day, at the real end of the day, the health of you, Anthony, is going to determine just, how fun or miserable this season is. Russ can be awful. If you're great, folks are kind of going to be off the Russell Westbrook story and be more on the 80 Defensive Player of the Year, All NBA campaign. And we're looking for those silver linings.
And you're like 100% right. To your earlier point, like, a couple minutes ago when we were starting to talk about AD, that, if he's healthy and if he's looking good, there's a lot of this stuff that we aren't talking about. Like the Lakers, like if the Lakers get like 60 plus games out of AD last year, they're probably in the play-in game. And, maybe they end up losing in the first round or something like that. But it's not looked at as this historic disaster that last season ended up being viewed as. I do think that, as much as I'm not like hyped for this season by any means based on kind of the roster that's coming out there. But if you told me that like, hey, like, LeBron and AD are probably going to each play like 60-ish games, like 60 upper 70 games. I don't believe that he's going to play 82, at this point, given what we've seen the last couple of years. But, if those guys can play the vast majority of games for the Lakers, we're talking about a different team, almost regardless of the supporting cast, just because they're that good.
Oh, if it was only that simple. Just keep AD healthy and everything falls into place. But
LeBron's got to start loaning in the cryo chamber. It's just like, it's selfish
something, man.
Point.
And
let AD move into the pool house or something, like, and just sleep in the cryo chamber. It's just.
I'll tell you this. I don't think LeBron James plays a second in GTA. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's GTA, leg syndrome.
No, he's look, AD likes to stream. LeBron likes to watch every single sports game in existence, like during his off time, and live tweet all of them.
Right.
Except for NBA playoff games after people started calling him a jinx. Then he like waited till those were over. And he's like, yeah, that guy was great.
0 dark 30 LeBron.
Yeah.
All right, Harrison, we're running. I'm gonna get you out of here, man. Couple more fire topic questions I have for you, just real quick. Darvin Ham has introduced a new metric for the Lakers, and it is going to be the kill count. Now, this is something that I am all too familiar with. My high school basketball coach, who was a defensive, I'll just call him defensive minded. I don't want to use negative connotations to see how intense he was about it. But he lived and breathed defense, and we were a great defensive team. And every day in practice, we had to do this 3-stop drill where defense is on defense for 3 straight stops. And it seems like Darvin Ham, who the Milwaukee Bucks, sounds like they were using that as well, counting and tracking that. Is bringing that over to the Lakers. So, again, the kill count that Phil Handy will be keeping track of this season is when the Lakers get 3 possessions in a row without giving up a basket. So today, Harrison, I just want to, if we're in Vegas, right, I just want a little prediction on how many kill counts do you expect the Lakers to have per game?
Oh man, per game. I do have to say that when I tweeted this out, this like quote from Spectrum, my quote tweets have been hilarious all day. It's just like different people, like different gifs of like empty notebooks, or like Phil Handy like drawing a unicorn in a notebook or whatever. They're like, this notebook by the end of the season, it's completely blank. And hey, like let's be optimistic. I think they'll get a few of these. I feel like most teams could get a couple of these by accident, just by like, the other team coming down, taking a couple bad shots. Like, we got to factor in the game's more 3-point heavy than it's ever been. Those are lower percentage shots than layups. And so, there are going to be a couple times where this happens. Like, the Lakers could be playing horrible defense and the team just misses 3 straight threes. And, like, these things happen. So, I don't know. I guess, like, I feel like
you're going to get 1
2
a game,
per game?
2 a game. I think.
Yeah, I think 2 a game is reasonable.
I just want to like add some, some type of, because like you said, everybody's like, well, that thing going to be empty for the season. It's like, all right, guys, yes, the jokes are hilarious, but
I mean, they were very funny. I do have to say, but I mean, I think 2 a game is a reasonable expectation. Like,
that's fair.
I mean, they have Anthony Davis. Like, if he's playing, like, they should be getting a few of these,
And if the Lakers are going to be made in Darvin Ham's image, and like he says, he expects them to be an elite defensive team, this all goes hand in hand, right? So, I think that's a good over-under here at Late Night Lake Show. We will set the kill count barometer at 2. and then just work
I
from
also, yeah, people were making Call of Duty jokes too about like their kill death ratio and stuff,
Oh
and
my
I'm like,
God.
I don't want to think
Again,
about that one. You know, look,
no,
like
no,
we
no.
aren't going to start counting how many kills they get versus how many they, I guess, like give up. Okay, like this is not a team that is blessed with a lot of, you know, distance shooting talent. You know,
Right.
they're probably going to have a few of these for the other team too, but that's okay. They just gotta, you know, get back and get them on their end. And like, you know, Darvin defensive minded. Like I'm hoping he's like a Nick Nurse style coach. We get some like real sideline theatrics. He's like getting down in a stance, like putting his money where his mouth is. He's a former player. I think we might see it. They're letting him wear the sweatsuits again this year. Like I think we may get that.
That's dope. Hey, you know, what was the last Lakers head coach? Was Luke out there running any drills back in the day when he was coaching? Did he get out there and bump some shoulders at all? Was he too busy playing beach volleyball?
You mean in like practice or during the game?
Yeah, no practice. I'm talking about.
I don't think he played in practice anymore because his back was messed up by the end of his career.
True.
So like, I don't think he could. Like, I remember when he got hired, I talked to guys when he was coaching with South Bay, and they said that he would still get out there and like against G League guys, like with his passing vision, like he looked like, they wouldn't make this comparison now, but apparently looked like Jokic basically, just because he like, you know, he was the guy that had a lot of passing vision. But I think by the time he was head coaching, I don't think you can hold guys accountable the same way if they're like busting your ass in practice, you know, like, no,
that's hilarious.
Yeah. I'm talking about on the sidelines. Like, I don't think Ham's going to get out there and like try and D LeBron up during practice.
No, you know,
I feel like Byron Scott's probably the last coach to do that, because like he wouldn't be ashamed to lose the battle. He's like, I'm going to throw you into the trash can, like if you try to get past me.
But you felt it though.
Toughness.
You felt that was there. Yeah. You're gonna be hurting in the morning. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Like D'Lo gets by him for a basket, and Byron just like pushes him into the stanchion, something like that. Like I feel like that would have been in his playbook, and then make him run like 50 laps for
a good back in my day story as he gets himself up.
Talking about the Showtime. Yeah.
Right. Hey man, I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, right? We talked about potential moves for the Lakers. Why did or didn't they make any adjustments? We talked about, you know, Russell Westbrook and kind of, you know, his expectations of himself, what we as fans should be expecting of him going forward. We kind of, you know, crescendoed it up to Anthony Davis, and really this kind of all comes back to how elite can he be, and if he could get back to his how we look at him and what we expect him to do. He said that we should not be looking at him like a Greek god, and then followed that up with he wasn't talking about Giannis, but you know, it's
admittedly a funny one-liner. Like you know, that's not bad. He's pretty funny. Yeah.
But my issue is though, Harrison, we kind of wanted to compare you to Giannis, and Giannis.
Yeah, remember when that was the thing?
Greek god.
It wasn't that long ago. It was 3 seasons ago. People were arguing about him versus Giannis.
1,000%.
I think Rich Paul came out and gave a quote on the record that AD was better than Giannis or something. Like this was, you know, during I think it was summer of 2019. Like, you know, this was like you know, we can argue about the legitimacy of the argument, but this was an argument that people were having.
1,000%.
You know, and then also like all summer, people have been talking about, you know, on various podcasts. I know Pete's brought this up on the LFR pod a couple times, like, you know, AD being kind of used in the Giannis role a little bit on like in Darvin Ham's system and in the way that he wants to play. And like, yeah, I don't know if like training camp, like for day one was the ideal day to come out and be like, yeah, you know, but I'm not as good as that guy.
You know, that's all. AD kind of in the middle of the court, being able to do some more playmaking, I think is the vibe that folks kind of want to see again, right? This whole, you know, point guard grew 1 billion inches and now he's a big man, but AD still has that skill set that you want to see utilized to the fullest. So, you know, I'm optimistic about him having a productive year. And then if I'm optimistic about Anthony Davis having a productive year, I can't be just depressed the whole season about the Lakers as a whole, because he is that good that he can elevate this team from being dead and no longer a consideration from being a playoff team to, all right, well, we got a chance. Healthy LeBron, healthy Anthony Davis. whatever else is behind, as long as we got some bodies that are willing to contribute on a night-to-night basis,
Yeah,
there's a chance.
Reasonable health from both of those guys. Like, this is a team due for a pretty big bounce back, even if Russ stays the whole season. Like, I think like they're going to be fighting to make it out of that play-in range. Like, that's about as optimistic as I can get myself. But like, I don't think that it's going to be we're fighting to like fight our way into the 10th spot. You know, like
Right.
I think that they're going to be firmly in that range, like in the hunt, trying to get out there, get up to 6. Somewhere around there, because, you know, again, this is the lame cliche of like people forget so-and-so was a bucket, but I think people have forgotten a little bit how good LeBron and AD are when they're on the court together. And if the Lakers can get a little more of that, then they're going to be in pretty good shape. And if they can't, then they're screwed anyway. So,
yeah,
you know, it didn't matter what they did this offseason.
Last question, Harrison. After everything that we talked about, after everything that you saw today from Media Day, have your expectations of the Lakers season, have they gotten better? Have they gotten worse? Or, you know, has nothing changed in your mind?
Not too much has changed. You know, I'm kind of, you know, I used to kind of buy into this Media Day stuff a little bit more, where now it's kind of like, I've heard guys say all the right thing. Like, this makes me sound really old. I'm not like that old, but I have been covering the team since like 2012 in different capacities. Like, I've paid attention to enough media days where everyone always says the right thing, almost always. And, you know, like I need to see it on the court. So I'm curious to see how training camp plays out. I'm sort of like, I'm excited to hear about like, okay, what does Kendrick Nunn look like in practice? And, you know, Lonnie Walker, did the Lakers remember they signed him? You know, the guy who was like their MLE and like never comes up in discussions of their guard rotation. Like, you know, how is he looking? Troy Brown Jr., mysterious back injury. Hope that's not too serious. And then, you know, obviously, like, you know, what do LeBron and AD look like? Is Russ actually like playing like a role player? I don't know. Yeah. What crazy thing did Pat Bev say today?
Oh, that's going to be my focus of the year. That's going to be I'm going to keep that thread going.
I feel like there could be a good bit in there of like real or fake Pat Bev quotes, because like he set the bar high for like fake ones today. And I don't know if you heard what he said about how he made up with Russ by they like met each other via helicopter and submarine on a boat in the middle of the sea with like 2,000 rose petals and, you know, had like a Michelin star dinner. You know, like the bar for, you know, hyperbole is high in Pat Bev quotes. Like he said in his first interview, like LeBron and AD are playing with me. Like he did the I am the captain now meme. So like, I feel like, yeah, you could get some good mileage out of like real or fake Pat Bev quote graphics.
I'm here for it.
That's not very journalistically responsible of me to endorse. Like, I'm not going to do it, but by all means, anyone listening to this, feel free to steal that one.
Just put LOL in the caption, and then
I think as long as you put like via Ballsack Sports or something like that, then I think you're in the clear. Like legally.
Sports.
Yeah.
Meat Shields and Ballsack Sports. That's how we gonna wrap.
There's your episode title.
That's the episode. Wow, goodness gracious. All right, Harrison, I'm going to get you up out of here, man. I appreciate your time, brother. That will do it for this episode of the Late Night Lake Show podcast. Real quick, Harrison, why don't you let the folks know where they can find you and all the work that you are putting out today?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at HMFaigen, HMFAIGEN. You know, follow Silver Screen and Roll for all of your Lakers needs. And hey, if you're curious about like how, you know, what's going on with the team that the Lakers are going to be playing or any other teams that you're interested in, check out the SB Nation NBA network. We have one site for every single one of the 30 teams, and we're going to be like hopefully ramping up our national coverage a little bit this year. I'm excited for, you know, what's in store for SB Nation.
Cool. You heard the man. Follow good content for good people. Harrison, brother, it was a great time catching up with you, man. We got to do it again soon as your schedule allows. I'm going to do my best to put on a smiling face for the fan base and deliver only the best Lakers personalities around the community. And we're just going to keep rocking it. And to be honest, it feels good knowing that we are in no control over how this team performs this year. To have no responsibility in a shit show is fantastic. Unfortunately, it's the shit show that we support the most. But what are you going to do? Fan short.
And hey, if it all goes wrong, you get some great content out of your like meltdown videos. So, you know, it's a win-win.
A win-win in the entertainment business, brother. We will catch you guys next time on the Late Night Lake Show podcast. If you're not, make sure you subscribe wherever you get your Lakers content. And subscribe to our newsletter and read all of our articles at latenightLakeshow.com. For Harrison, it's Ricky. We out. Peace.